lecturer and researcher, she has contributed immensely to the advancement of knowledge and development of these cutting-edge technologies. With her extensive knowledge in cybersecurity, Olamide has worked on numerous projects aimed at enhancing the security of online systems and protecting sensitive data. She's also well-versed in blockchain technology and its various applications, including smart contracts, digital currencies, and decentralized finance. As a seasoned researcher, Olamide has conducted extensive studies on smart grid technology and its integration with renewable energy systems. And her research has contributed significantly to the development of more efficient and sustainable energy systems. Furthermore, Olamide has a keen interest in artificial intelligence and its potential to transform various industries, including healthcare, finance, and transportation. She's also actively involved in the development of intelligent systems and solutions that can be used to solve complex problems. So let's welcome her.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I was like, oh, is that me? About the AI, I'm also an expert in that, but you actually requested that I talk specifically on blockchain, so that's why the discrepancy is about, so that is fine. So thank you everyone. My name is Olamide. This is a little bit technical, so it's not like a museum that everyone is excited about, but we'll try as much as possible to bring everyone along. So the title today is Blockchain for Sustainable Development in Africa. We look at the opportunities and the some of the challenges in that regard. So quickly about me, I am. What's that?
Yeah, leave it or go.
I should leave it.
Yeah.
Okay, so about my research in AI, blockchain, and energy quickly. So doing my PhD as well as my postdoctoral research associate.
AI.
Oh, okay, I found that. Thank you.
On the X.
Okay, so my research in AI, blockchain, and energy generally. So doing my PhD as well as my postdoctoral research associate, and also doing my lecturing work now. So I've been able to contribute a lot of public funded researches on energy transition, net zero carbon, the role of blockchain, the role of AI in achieving that in smart cities as well, and smart grid. So part of them, like this energy trading and sharing, it's a project between the South Korean government and the UK government, who just want to try to see how we can enable energy trading. What that means generally is just like, okay, if you have like a particular house that produces renewable energy using like solar system, and there's another house that is in deficit, in the sense that it does not have access to electricity. How can we share from the house with surplus to the house with deficit? So which is one of the things we also tried. We did like a scale up of that in African context, specifically in Nigeria, where we try to provide access to electricity for a particular community using that particular research. So I also worked on Triangulum, which is an EU-funded project between so many partners in Europe. So it's about smart cities, smart grid demonstrator, how we can use energy storage, how we can use solar energy, and several other things like that to make life easy for everyone. So energy IQ is between UK government and Canada government, which also try blockchain and AI. So they're all fusing together. The other one too is the same thing. Then we have aftermarket to the same line. So this interlink computing, it's more into security of interlink systems. Like these days, we have so many things working together. Like in a particular company, they can have their software sourced from another company. They could have like customer that are depending on them. So all these different interactions, what is the security implication of those systems? So that's what this particular project is about. which is funded by Northwest Partnership Security Trust. Then we have smart charging. I'm sure some of us have heard of electric vehicle here, and it's something that is going like in the next, because the government said that next 2035 or something, they will start to sell off all these fuel-based vehicle, and everyone have to move to electric vehicle. So this particular project is about how we can do smart charging using blockchain and AI, which means it can tell you how to do like a recommendation service, when to charge, when not to charge, when next you can see your available charger, and several things like that. And this last project is remarkable, which is funded by Marie Curie and also UKRI. So that is particularly interesting because it concerns bringing the knowledge we have in the developed country to African continent. So in particular case, we're looking at the remarkable project has to do with smart farming. How can we integrate AI for predictive analytics? How can we integrate blockchain for traceability to enable our smart farming? Because we have the land there, they have the resources to do the farming, but we need to make it smart. Like when do you need to feed your animals? How do you monitor your plants? And several other things like that, which is what we are currently doing at the moment. So some of the partners have worked with in the past. So the big question I was given today, it's quite long. So how can the application of blockchain technology, cybersecurity, smart contracts contribute to sustainable development in Africa generally? So we have so many things going on around here, and I said it's a little bit technical, but I'll try as much as possible to break it down. So if you look at the keyword here, cybersecurity, it essentially deals with how you can protect your network and also your information from an actor that wants to exploit them. So which means it's not just about your data, it's also about your network as well. So how do you protect them? And the aim of cybersecurity is the CIH triage, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which means data needs to be confident and have access, and those that need access to it are the ones that have access to it. Integrity means that it's no reputation, which means you don't have to like just copy it around, let it be immutable. Then availability is that whenever you need it, you have it. So how can we, that is the three main goals of cybersecurity. And to achieve that, we can also use blockchain technology because of the different features of blockchain, which I will talk about more in a minute. So we can use it to achieve all those different things. Then smart contract, it's like a computer code that is written and run on blockchain. So that is how the three of them work together. So cybersecurity, we want to protect our assets. Blockchain is a way to do that. The smart contract is just a code that runs on the blockchain for it to work. So now I'll now change topic to how can we apply blockchain technology for sustainable development in Africa with the ultimate aim of achieving cybersecurity essentially. So we look at the challenges as well. So what is blockchain? How many of us have heard of blockchain before? I think you should start with that. Good. And what is the most common implementation of blockchain we've seen? Bitcoin, yeah. That's like what everyone knows. Like not everyone might, but majority of people know what a Bitcoin is, or they've heard of it at some point. So blockchain is not just about cryptocurrency. It's not just about Ponzi scheme, because people have used it a lot for that. So there's so many things, so many innovations that actually sprout from blockchain that could help both developed country and also underdeveloped country. So what is blockchain technically? Just a quick background to know how effective it is that could help us in achieving those innovative projects. So in a sentence, we can say blockchain is an append-only transaction log. So similarly to our normal database that we record things on, like a normal ledger. So this is blockchain, also it's like a ledger. So but with normal database, you can delete, you can update, you can cancel something, but for blockchain, you can only append. which means you can only view that data and you can only attach to that data. So blockchain says that we have a block of data and there's a chain. So when the next one comes, that one also attached to the previous one, making your blockchain. So, and what is it? Also, instead of it being just a normal one database, it is distributed, which means each of the nodes in that blockchain have a copy of that particular chain. So which means if a particular node is like down, for instance, another node can fetch out the copy of the state of that blockchain at that particular time. So technologically, it's a distributed database. So it could be public ledger, depending on the implementation, it could be private as well. And we can insert data, as I've said, we can select data, but we cannot update and delete. So that is where the immutability nature comes in, which is very, very useful. In the sense that once you put a data on the blockchain, you cannot change it. If you want to effect any changes to that particular one, you have to issue another block that will go through the processors and all the things within the blockchain and append it, referring to the previous one. So which means whenever anything is on there, no other person can deny that it's not there. And they can also like say delete it or update it or change it in any way. So it is based on peer-to-peer technology, which means we do not need a centralized system like the banks, for instance. We can make a platform by ourselves and just create transaction directly without involving any bank, for instance. So you might wonder, why do we need blockchain? So there's lack of inefficiency and transparency in various industries, which include finance, supply chain management, and governance. So imagine money coming in from somewhere, usually for like a company, for instance, or maybe like an NGO that receive donations from people. They get the money and you don't know what they do with the money. So those type of transparency, that lack of transparency is one of the things that blockchain could help us to solve. And that is why it is more than Bitcoin, and several other industries are now tapping into the power of the blockchain to make efficiency works. For transparency, for traceability, for immutability. Because once you have something that you can't deny to that. So, and how does blockchain work? Just quickly, like a user initiate a transaction, like I want to send £10 to like Bob, and that's the transaction I want to initiate. And that person broadcasts that transaction to all the nodes in the network. And after that, they do like a validation of that particular transaction. Who is it coming from? Where is it going to? Is it legitimate? Is it the real thing? And after validating it, those nodes aggregate the validated transaction and broadcast it to other nodes to make sure that all the nodes in the network have the true state of the blockchain at that particular time. So someone initiated it. Some people, because it's peer-to-peer, those nodes did the distributed consensus within themselves to validate it. And they send the true states to every other node to update their data of that. So most implementation of blockchain, Ethereum and Bitcoin, which you know already. So now to Africa, how can we use that? So I believe now we have like a general knowledge of what blockchain is, how it works, and that it can help like different industries. I know we are familiar with the Sustainable Development Goal, which have so many things. And I see blockchain as one of the ways in which we could actually achieve that. So like some of the goals, zero hunger, zero poverty, healthcare, good healthcare, and several other things like that, yeah, in the development goal. Especially with Africa, you know that with their current agenda of what we want in Africa of 2063, they also complement those particular goals as well. So which means for us to tap into those goals and let it actually work for everyone, one of the ways we need to do it is to actually embrace that technology, which blockchain would help to solve some of them, of course, not all, but some of those goals can be achieved using technology. So some of the ways you can use blockchain for sustainable development. So number one, and the most common one, is financial inclusion and creating your marketplace. So that is the most common implementation of blockchain, which also is inclusive of Bitcoin and several other things. So there have been so many platforms now that have been developed to do one thing or the other. So with blockchain, it could actually have sustainable finance. So which means you can track any donations, you can track transactions, you can also help with responsible spending. Because know that there's a proof that, okay, this is what you receive and this is what you're sending. So which means if you receive that, you can't deny that you didn't receive it. And that will help you to be conscious of what you're spending because there's a record of it. So it's not like normal paper record that you can tear off the paper. Or in Nigeria, a goat can eat it up. So that is not bad because this is digital and everyone have a copy of it. So also it can help with appropriate allocation of funds. Another thing with financial inclusion is that it helps also with maybe all this cross-border payment, and especially for rural areas. So cross-border payment says that, like recently in Nigeria, they implemented the e-Naira, which could be help if you want to do like anything electronic payments. Then all the rural areas who does not have access to financial services, they can also make use of that. But there's a little problem with them anyway that people impact as part of the challenges to that. Then also for financial inclusion, we can also consider crowdfunding. Like in Africa, we have a lot of young talents, like so many talented people with so many innovations, but they don't have access to cash, like capital to use. But with blockchain, if you implement a particular platform, that could help with crowdfunding. So foreign investors could actually invest there, and they know that their money is being used well because they can see the tracking of that particular money. So it's not as if they receive the money and use it for something entirely different. Also, the crowdfunding could help with SMEs, healthcare, and also education. And one implementation of blockchain, like I was telling us earlier on about my research, the peer-to-peer energy trading. So we got a funding for the peer-to-peer energy trading where we did like a theoretical work between Nigeria and South Korea. But after that, we got another funding from Innovate UK, which is on nice energy. So that's about £2 million. And what that was meant for is to take out all the knowledge we gained from the theoretical work from the previous funding to implement it in African countries. So we had a company together from Nigeria, Via Energy. So we actually did it in Daura, which is like in Abuja in Nigeria. So there's a particular community that they do not have access to electricity at all. So they don't know even what electricity is all about. They don't have access to like the normal national grid is not there. So, and there's a school in that particular community. So what they do most, the community, they do they're farmers, fishermen, that's what they do most of the time. And during the day, the community, so through that project, we install like solar panels, which is renewable energy, battery storage system, both in the community and also at the school. So during the day, when the school is on ground, they get access to that electricity through the renewable. Then during after school time, like in the evening, when the farmers are back in their homes, they now have access to that electricity through the storage system. So that's one of the things we can achieve. We give them access to those electricity through that mix. And we've completed the project now, but they are still enjoying that anyway. So now, which is very good. So it was in the news for like a couple of years because they were really excited, they were really happy. They now have access to mobile phone, they can use mobile phone. They have access to like cold water because there's like a shop there with fridge. So they can now charge up and several other things, which is very interesting. So that's one of the ways we can do like energy trading, energy sharing, or community energy generally by sharing and distributing when one needs it, when one does not need it. And blockchain could help when you want to sell by knowing who you want to send it to at that particular time. So other ways in which blockchain can be used in Africa. So election. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Nigerian election. So, yeah, I know. But of course, with blockchain, you can use it to like verify those that want to vote. And also you can use it to verify the counting of votes. And you can use it to like count the votes publicly. Because once they're doing it, it's like a timestamp. So you can know who voted. They can like, there's a digital signature attached to blockchain, which means they can hash that particular person for privacy if they want to, so that you will know who you voted for, who that person voted for. But blockchain itself could help with election by counting the votes, by verifying the voters, and also by displaying the results publicly. There are so many research on that at the moment. The education, that could also work, especially with this issue of certificates, where you think, okay, like new election recently, so they were debating about, oh, you didn't go to school, you went to school, you went like that. So if you have those records digitally stored in blockchain, then no one can deny that you do not have it. So which means that could also prove your certificate, your degree as well. Then for land management, sorry, I'm referring to Nigerian laws, but I know that's a real while. Land management, we have so many people that could sell a particular piece of land to like 10 different people. And now they now have to go to court and start contesting it. So those kind of things, you can use the legitimate owner of the land by using that aspect. And there's some more research at the moment regarding that aspect on how to know the ownership of a particular land using blockchain as well. Law enforcement is the same thing. Then farming is the recent work we're doing with African countries. So like this one now, I have a trip in July to go to South Africa regarding this particular project, the remarkable projects we're doing with them. So because in South Africa, they are doing a lot of farming, and they're trying to, and those areas, they're like local rural area where there's no even connectivity. So if you meet with blockchain and you want to use it and there's no connectivity, how can it work? It can't. So part of the project, the remarkable project, is to make sure that we provide connectivity first. We use another technology like no Wi-Fi, but another thing to help. So for connectivity, we use AI for data analytics, like to measure the rate at which your plants are growing, or even the animals, like the cows, what speed can they cover at a particular time, where we they need a new feeding and several other things like that. Then we use blockchain for like traceability of that data to make sure that it is secured and it is transferred to where we want to analyze it. So it's like using so many different technologies together to achieve a simple aim for the farming. Then another aspect of blockchain in Africa is healthcare. This diagram is actually from Lancet here in the UK. And for healthcare, we can use it for different things. So this is specifically for data ownership. Like a particular patient can decide who he or she wants to have access to data. The medical, the clinician and the researcher, if they give them access, then they can have access to it. Especially healthcare in Nigeria or probably in Africa, what we can use blockchain for, it's mainly for all these drug counterfeiting. So which means, because there are so like the recent report by African United Nations that 42% of the reported fake drugs are from Africa. So 40% is high. So with blockchain, we did something in our team here at MLU that used blockchain to measure, to determine the originating place where a drug was manufactured. So which means with that, you can determine where it came from and you can know where it's going to. So which means you know if it's fake or it's not fake. Because by taking fake medicine, it's causing more trouble for the health of the person taking it. So that is another application where you can use it in Africa. And finally, supply chain. So this figure is from Amazon. So supply chain, it could be in any area. So it could be in consumer clothes, it could be food. So for those that are environmentally conscious, they could want to know where they got their material, their clothes from. So is it ethically sourced? or not through the transportation cycle, then how far it is, what is the impact of the emissions along that way to get it to the final consumer. So all those things are things that you can get through blockchain. So some of the projects in Africa that are currently using blockchain, this first one is Cardano. So it's not really, this one is not really African origin, but it's profound influence in Ethiopia, which uses blockchain to create an ID system. So which means apart from financial stuff and apart from blockchain, Bitcoin, we can use this for other things, and this is now like working. So blockchain-based ID system. Then we have P2P services like the payment system in Kenya. Then there is Acorn. I think some of us should be familiar with that. I think you have that in the names. How many of us have?
The singer.
Yeah, the singer. Yeah. So it's from Acorn. He created his own Acorn, and which means that he wants to see how we can use blockchain platform to bolster progress in African countries.
I was going to wait for you to finish. So it works.
Yeah. And we actually received like a favorable support from industry, like IBM supporting him and several other people like that, which is actually good. And DPAT, which is now for real estate. So like what I talked about land management the other time. So which means with that, you can know the origin of a particular piece of land if you want to. It's like a trading hub for land management, land acquisition, and all of that. So now that we've seen where we can use it, some of the challenges to blockchain development in Africa, number one is regulation, definitely. So this diagram is showing the landscape of the countries that have national blockchain roadmap. This is as at May 2023, as at this month, technically. So Nigeria seems to be the first African country to be on the list, so which is very good. It's the right step forward. It started a while ago, it was altered at some point, and now they've been able to do it. So which means that regulation would help to know what to do, what not to do. I could also protect against all the Ponzi schemes that are hiding behind Bitcoin and several data like that. And it could also help people to embrace it. If they say that it's regulated, it will create like more trust in the system generally. Then another challenge could be education. So lack of awareness of what it is, lack of awareness of how it works, for instance. The lack of technical knowledge, it's a lot of things that could hinder the development of that, especially in Africa. So what we need to do, like upskilling, reskilling, telling people how it works, creating awareness, try as much as possible to make sure that they know how to ethically use blockchain, then that will really, really help. Then also, so this publication is recently from February, which says that crypto and blockchain education becomes priority at top universities. So this is at developed world anyway, not here in Africa, but of course we can make it happen if you want to. So which means that there are so many, because of the advantage, like there's another article I read recently that they said blockchain could be the future of finance, which is possible. So recently now, schools in US, in Europe, they are trying as much as possible to include blockchain curriculum, blockchain into their curriculum, which means to tell their students what it is and how it is done. Because it could actually be the future, we don't know yet, but it's a possibility. Their connectivity, like that rural area that I talked about, lack of connectivity means that they can't do anything digital because there's still this large digital divide. We can't deny that. So like, for instance, the one that we did with the Nigeria with the electricity provision, we can say that the energy poor because they don't have access to it. But now digital divide also, it's a real thing. So those in the rural community that doesn't have connectivity to the internet, they can't obviously participate in a blockchain based on internet. So those are some of the challenges too, which research is actively looking at the way they can bridge that gap. And this is one technical challenge anyway, energy efficient potential mechanism. I don't want to bother us with that. So has blockchain achieved our cybersecurity? Yes. So how? Remember, the aim of cybersecurity is CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So the first problem, the first solution, the first aim of cybersecurity, which is confidentiality. So because blockchain can ensure that by only allowing the authorized people to have access to particular data. So if you create like a private blockchain, for instance, you can create for like an organization. So they are the one that have access to that particular thing at that particular time. Public blockchain means that everyone that's on the network can see what is on the chain. So which means they can see those transactions. But if you do private one, then it can give you your confidentiality that you needed. Then integrity, it means that integrity means to ensure no reputation and authenticity of information. So blockchain does that perfectly because of this immutability feature and also for its traceability feature. Because once it's there, you can't change it, you can't alter it. And which means it protects the integrity of that particular information at that particular time. Availability, because blockchain is resilient and because it is distributed, means that data will be available at every time. So which means if a particular node in the blockchain is now cut off the entire network, you still have access to data through another node in that network. And I think that is all. Okay, so in summary, there are several features of blockchain that I did not talk about: transparency, trust, digital signature, how it does its cryptography and security, and also user identification, smart contracts, and all that. So I believe blockchain technology can support the social, political, and economic transformation of Africa. So yeah, I think that's all. It's a bit technical, so sorry.
Thanks so much. Great lecture. First of all, personal thanks. You explained blockchain to me.
Okay.
I think I got it.
Oh,
I'm sure everybody's got it. So that's great. I think you made a really good case for the ways in which the adoption of blockchain systems can succeed in Africa, can help the development of Africa. I'm just wondering if you're a little bit unambitious in that, because and the reason I say that, I spend quite a lot of my working life in Africa on infrastructure projects in the World Bank and that kind of stuff. It was often frustrating. I have to say, particularly in Nigeria, but let's move on. And it's frustrating because it seemed to me that the World Bank and other funding agencies, they were attempting to recreate post-colonial Africa in the image of the West, basically. And it was delivering infrastructure, which wasn't quite right in the settings. It was expecting processes to be in place, government structures to be in place that correspond. Often they weren't for a whole variety of reasons. It seems to me that blockchain gives you the opportunity to bypass those issues. When I come back to the UK and I'm working within these government structures, and they're centuries old. They're quite inefficient. I think the real opportunity of Africa is you haven't got all this impedimentia of clapped out old bureaucratic systems, rules for infrastructure, all that stuff isn't there, or else it's crumbling away in a bit in Africa, and a good job this is. So it just seems to me that there's a real opportunity to not only to deliver through blockchain and other technologies, but also to lead in their development for the developing world.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Africa has a lot of resources. Yeah. The people, the young people, and several other things like that. And also, because of the, like you said, the bureaucracy, it's not that. Like the implementation that we did for the energy trading, if we already have like a big national grid, it might be challenging to actually carry that out. But because it's not there, we can construct our whole by ourselves from scratch. So those kind of a thing are there as like enabler that someone can actually grab to make that thing happen. And blockchain is really developing, and so many people are tapping into it. So it's a very good thing for Africa. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Forgive my ignorance or arrogance. So can we say blockchain is a function of AI, or AI is a function of blockchain? And if so, what's the direct line between these two elephants in the room?
AI is something entirely different. So it's not, it doesn't have any link to blockchain, literally. But both of them, we can use them to enhance each other. And there's a recent research I carried out in looking at, because my research is like in AI and blockchain for critical national infrastructure generally. So looking at how we can use AI to enhance blockchain and how blockchain can enhance AI. So AI generally, it's more into data analytics, like learning from data and using that learning to inform decision. So while blockchain is mainly for security, you can also use AI for security, data detection, network detection, privacy, and several other things, and that's the better one. Because it can learn from like all the past intrusion detection, we did the next one, and try to as much as possible to detect the next attack before it occurs. So that's what AI is, just learn from data. Like the GTP that you're talking about, they use data, a lot of data to train it. So which means if you ask him like a question like something related to the future, he will tell you, no, I'm AI, I don't know it.
Yes.
So it fails in that regard. So it's majorly based on past to just like make the future a little bit better. So anything regarding to the future, he doesn't know it. The blockchain entirely itself, it's more into privacy of data, more into traceability, more into tracking data and several other things like that, which is very good.
Question here and then one at the back.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. My question is with regards to the use of blockchain internationally. I saw from the list of countries you have this quite a small list.
Yeah.
Considering the whole world there. Are you aware of any say international legislative mechanisms to involve everybody? And I'm asking this in particular because of the election system in many countries in Africa, how elections are rigged and they are usually unfair. This is what normally opposition says. And I think that would probably be beneficial.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Blockchain is like evolving. So there have been so many research across different countries about how they can use it. But in terms of that regulation, you just don't feel that they actually implemented a roadmap to see how they can use it. So which means that research is coming on from people about using the e-voting system, election, voucher system, healthcare, like between the peer review journals. But just only those few countries as at May this year have actually like beaten a roadmap of how they want to like use that blockchain.
Yeah, great presentation. I've also learned something today. Seems like it's putting the power of the people on the ground within the small communities into the play of being part of the world infrastructure, especially on the continent. My theories or question is, can blockchain be used by the colonial and neo-colonial powers to then entrap those people that are in the positions of private companies and governments, putting blockchain in a position so the local people say, oh, this is run by a local government, must be fine, but now they've put them in a new form of slavery. Can that happen?
That's an interesting question. Anyone want to try to answer that?
I mean, sorry, I'm thinking it can happen in a sense, but I'm being more positive or more pragmatic in fact that the people that has the power to do that. What I'm saying is, when the people are educated and have the blockchain to their access, can they then not access the powers that have been exploiting them and live cause, by themselves, or can they operate independently from the exploitation they've been receiving for the last for non-development, yeah.
I'll say that's very interesting, really. Because if you look at it, everything that requires like trust, that requires like efficiency, that requires like certain things is what you can use blockchain for. So you can use blockchain to actually implement maybe financial payment system within the community, which can work. But I'm not sure if that could like really want the next couple of years. So I don't know, but it's a potential thing that could actually come to fruition.
So I'll just on the back of that. How secure is it? And obviously, with that gentleman there talking about commercial businesses and governments and other sort of agencies looking at that data and manipulating that to keep communities in check or in a place of servitude. So how secure is that blockchain data, and can it be manipulated by government or organizations?
Okay, so we have the definition of blockchain, the public one, which means anyone on that network can see it and have access. So which means, and sometimes even if they have access to it, they're not believing that they can change it. Because the blockchain, that's one power thing with blockchain, it's no reputation, it's immutable. So which means once you put it back, it's kind of safe. So if you want to change any data in the previous slot, you have to issue another blockchain already, which will go next in line. So the one that is already there, you can't change it. So which means anybody that have access to the blockchain network can see any data on it. Aside, there's some data, there's some research coming up now that they're using like cryptography to hash that particular thing. So which means I don't want to bore you with that, but the way it works like public key, private key. So if I have like a data that I want to send to like another person, for instance, I can use my own private key to hash that data to make it secure. So which means if I send it to that particular person, if we use his own public key to open it. So like I'm sending it to that particular person and not, so which means anybody in between, anyone that wants to have access to it, won't say it. But if you send it to the blockchain, they won't see that data, but they can see a record of it that okay, this thing came in, but they don't know what is in that block. If that makes sense. So it's secure in that aspect that they can't see that data. If you really want to make it secure, then you can use that cryptography to hide it from people. And also you can make like a private blockchain, which would be within an organization. So with that, it's not open or public to other people that's on the network. So just within that particular place or the people that you want them to have access to it. So it's mostly used on anyway in all these projects, like especially in an organization, you just do like blockchain to make sure that this comes from here, it goes there, and they have access to it. But the Bitcoin, like the public implementation of it is public. So anyone that big the network can see everything that's that is not hashed. Like I think just from the system. Yeah.
So there's no way that a government, foreign government can come into your blockchain.
You can't change data.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the development?
Sorry, we've got a question here, question there, and then I'm completely.
Okay.
Hold on to your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Olamide Jogunola, for this very insightful presentation. I've learned quite a lot from what you, a lot of new, though the technology is not new to me, but I've learned some very new things. And I've also realized, because with the Cardano you presented there, that was something I was looking at buying some shares in, and I did that on it. I think maybe I should have bought some shares in that. So my question is basically around regulation. Have you seen from research, have you seen any pushback from the government or very large entities in trying to strangulate the acceleration of blockchain so as to enable them maintain their status quo?
Yeah, a lot. Even with personal conversation, there's like a professor at my uni, and she was like, "No, blockchain is a joke." That's what she will tell you. I know it's a joke. It's not possible. Like, oh, people know what it. Maybe just me, because she's like they are experts anyway. So she was like, it's a joke. So there are so many things like that, like opposition, reading research, like people not believing in it and saying that it's not possible like that. So maybe they're looking at that one big thing, which is just the implementation of it is a brilliant idea that people are making innovative things from. So there are so many things like standardization is a trouble as well. And people lack of trust in it. It's also like an opposition to its development, which is more like that regulation thing will go a long way. Because if people see that it's regulated, then they might trust the system. Like recently this year, February, there's a press release from the government, UK government, that they have to regulate blockchain. Like they have to do something about it because there's so much of terms of other aspects of it, like all this Ponzi scheme and stuff. People are losing things because of lack of proper implementation of the blockchain. So there has to be like a status quo. What is the best way to implement it and not be open to like survival or something like that. So yeah.
Thanks for the presentation, it was brilliant. Now, I want to understand something. AI, tell me when I'm wrong, right? Are you saying to me that AI uses the past data to predict what's going to happen in the future?
Technically, yes. Yeah. So you feed it the data, okay, like take instance, let me say, yeah, I think I'll just go to phishing detection, for instance. So you know, phishing is a lot of social engineering attacks that I'm sure at some point some of us must have received an email from a Nigerian prince. So that's like a phishing email attack. So they send it to you, and what AI does is that it takes those prior received emails and try to analyze it based on maybe syntactics or based on the way it's written or based on several other things. So we did that maybe when you receive another email, is that a phishing email or not? So you can use it to just prove the legitimacy of that particular one that you receive. So like different other things are like all this energy consumption prediction, for instance. You feed in your previous energy data, maybe 30 minutes consumption in your house. And you can tell you, okay, maybe tomorrow you will use 10 kilowatt hour based on what he has already been fed on previously. So that is what he does.
So is there any law guiding all these, like this phishing law we talked about? Because I've been in a situation whereby it's my friend's son that was able to bring to me that the person that sent this email is using Nigeria. But actually, the person is just 6 houses away from me.
That's another thing, it's VPN. So they need to something called VPN, yeah. They need to map your location. So which means I might be here and I can map my location and I'm in China, for instance. So that's like another security thing entirely.
So there's no law, law anywhere, any legislation anywhere guiding all this, because from this presentation, I'm just saying to myself, there's nothing secure. There is nothing. Everyone is trying That's my understanding.
I'll just quickly come in there. Anything online is not secure. I think that's
what is out there?
yes. You can only try to protect, and I think there is also an information that went out with regard to how secure your password is, depending on the number of characters, letters, and all the rest. So if you have password, it can actually be hacked. It's just a matter of time. It could take a few years, it could take a few months. Then with regards to the question you asked about the location, for example, those who have visited China will notice there are certain websites you might not be able to access. But if you have VPN, for example, so VPN is a virtual private network, which gives you an IP address of a different location from where you are. For example, if you're outside the UK, a lot of people might not know, you won't be able to watch BBC, because BBC is a service for UK taxpayers or TV license payers. So, but if someone who wants access to BBC News gets a VPN from UK, for example, I know some people who are living in UK before, and they moved out of UK to work as professionals elsewhere. They want to listen to BBC. You just get a VPN from UK, and then it shows a UK IP address, and you're able to watch BBC, for example. Yeah, so I think that's the.
Thank you for that. Al,
I can see the advantage of blockchain in Africa the way you describe it, and thanks for your presentation. Who sets the rules for developing blockchain? What's the governing body? Because touching on what his brother is saying, if the sets out the criminal with the intention to exploit and stuff, if the people who set the rules for blockchain is to exploit, they're going to get exploited anyway.
Yeah.
So Julius Nyerere said, Africa, the American is trying to get to the moon, and the African is trying to get to the village. And you know, the infrastructure, infrastructure development is not, to me, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So it's like pharmaceutical. You mentioned pharmaceuticals coming into Nigeria, and I remember watching a program about a lady with a baby, and she had malaria, and she had a fake drug. No, I work in pharmaceuticals, and there was no active drug in there for the particular malaria parasite. And the child died. That was horrifying. But how do you prevent toxic waste, nuclear waste, and other waste from the West coming into Africa using blockchain and that sort of thing? You see, if the intention is bad already, you know, the intention is criminal already, it's going to be criminally used. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. If intention is that, of course, definitely. Like, there have been some recent attack regarding a blockchain system, which actually, because the thing is, the tech is that if you have the knowledge, you can actually implement it. So you can implement it for malicious usage if you want to. But of course, what I'm saying is like how we can use it for like good thing. So definitely, if you want it for malicious things and you have the knowledge to implement it, why not?
Just one more question. Shouldn't you mention it could be used in vote rigging in Africa? Shouldn't they use it in the United States, the amount of vote rigging that goes on in the United States and gerrymandering? Shouldn't be used there first?
So which means you have like the traditional way of doing things. So this is just like something they imagine that would displace the traditional way. So it's possible they probably use it at some point. So I don't know anything. Any questions?
I'm still not sure who controls it. That's the question that everyone really wants. So, yes, a group can have, use the blockchains, individuals probably can, but who controls that?
There's no problem that control it. Centralized. It's not the basic.
Is there anything that will control it in the future? Because I think that's why, because I can use it, you can use it, the government can use it. That's why it's out there and can easily be attacked.
Why it's able, it could, okay, like blockchain generally. So they actually proved that it's not possible to bring it down because it's decentralized. Aside, you have 51% attack. The sense that if you have more than half of the blockchain, then you can attack it. Because by then, consensus algorithm that is done during the transaction verification requires some people to know it. So if you have more stake on the blockchain entirely, then you can manipulate that consensus. Do you understand? But actually, it's not possible, at least for now, for just one person to have that stake because it's distributed, it's like everywhere. So in all countries, and it means you can have different things.
Might not so much a question, but just to say, very previous life, 15 more years ago, I did some research and studying with manufacturers here at the University of Manchester, and my lovely little database lovely heart and felt it's amazing to know why we're looking at from 15 years ago and how it's now moving on and how actually at the time the thinking was there,
Yeah.
but the technology wasn't in place to do it. So I'm now a comms manager and at this church, but my database little in heart. I'm so thankful for this legend. Because she's happy now, she knows what's going on. So thank you very, very much.
I've just got one later thing that I'll come to.
Hi, so in terms of cost being cost effective, would the traditional database compared to the blockchain database, which would be more cost effective? Number question one. And secondly, how do you correct mistakes if it's not correctable? And would it cost a lot to correct those mistakes in the blockchain?
Okay, so the first question regarding costs, it's usually one of the things that they consider. It's a kind of trade-off. So if you think that the traditional database system is very defined for your system, then you don't need to do a blockchain. But if you want to consider the added security, the added distributedness of it, because you can distribute it over different nodes. Then the added no reputation ability of the blockchain, they might consider it. So there's a cost implication to that. So it depends on the particular conversation. You decide on, okay, do you want to ignore the costs and just go for the advantage, or do you want to just stick with the traditional one? Then regarding the second question, the blockchain is immutable, so which means once the data has been passed through the consensus mechanism and has been attached to all the nodes, you can't delete it or update it. You can only view it. That's the way you can do it. So to correct that previous mistake, you have to issue another one. So which means you have to start again, and that particular transaction has to go through the same confirmation within the nodes, and will now attach the new one to the next line of the chain.
Do you think it's time consuming and costly?
It's not really. So this system because the computing in less than microseconds, so you don't even feel it. You don't see it. Yeah. But recently they said if you use the public blockchain to like either Ethereum or Bitcoin, it might take some time to actually get to the finalization to the attachment. But if it's like a private blockchain within an organization, it's quite fast. But the public one takes a while, definitely, for the consensus to be done and to attach it that. But even that, a while, it's not like days or something, just like in seconds or something.
Yeah, just trying to understand the value. How would you attach the value to a blockchain? You know, if somebody wants to go and utilize the blockchain, how would they think to go and utilize the blockchain? What value would we have? You know, how would you use the value?
I didn't quite get that, sorry.
You know, the blockchain, have you got a value to it? You have to.
You know, like how we got
Yes.
money, you mean like how we got.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Bitcoin, whichever I've bought Bitcoin before, it might be a Bitcoin, but there's like a dollar value attached to it. So if you want to buy Bitcoin, maybe you can buy like, I don't know, for a price or anything, but there is a value attached to it. So
Sorry, and how would that value, you know, like, how would that value, how would somebody come up with the value of that particular blockchain?
I think it has to do with more like stock market really. But there's this NFT which is not fungible that they go actually sell it and to get your real value in your normal legal tender money. Yeah. And it's a lot of new world, and if you take on search blockchain or Bitcoin, you see so many things. So like, how does this work out? So many things, yeah. Let's see another handle. Please, no more hands. Let's give you a hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't understand it, but I understood, you know, but I never understood blockchain and all this crypto and Bitcoin. And I just stay away from it because I don't understand it. Sometimes I want to see it. I want to see it, you know. Right, it's 12:30 now. The lecturer is here. You're finding a way to build in. There is food available. We've been told we can't eat on the premises. We can't eat here. It's in takeaway container, so we'll go back into the room where we were, where she'll hand it out to you. You can keep it in there and or take it away with you. But whatever you do, just make sure you take away the plastic containers and you take away the water bottles from in here as well, please. So basically I'm saying take rubbish with you. Okay, otherwise I got to go around Jugunola. So, otherwise I will see you back here. We're back in here. We've got another two exciting conversations to have. We have our Lancelet Odua Imasron, who is a Nollywood director and also one of the founders of Nollywood. If you go watch Nollywood on Netflix, we've got him with us up there. He's going to give us a quick talk. And I think you all have the list of what it is that we're talking about, but it's somewhere, okay? Yes, so Sir Lancelot will be talking about how, as the Nigerian film industry, that's Nollywood, contributed to the African cultural identity and influenced global film industry trends, and what are the opportunities and challenges facing the industry as it continues to evolve and expand in the digital age. Then following him, we have, get it right, Dr. Campbell Price. Got it right. Do you know what? Why I said let me get it right? Because to me, Campbell Price, it's like two surnames. I think saying Price Campbell, and it's not Price Campbell, it's Campbell Price. Anyway, Dr. Campbell Price will be talking to us about how can, I better get this right, how can UK citizens engage with Africa and African communities to promote a more ethical approach, and but it's more in particular to the Egyptian and Sudanese displays that are in Manchester Museum. You know, I've captured all the Manchester Museum people. So those are the conversations we'll be having after lunch. So you can go back to the hands of the room, you can enjoy your lunch in there. Thanks very much, everyone.
So I have to go back to the museum to do a tour, but then I'll be back here for